Ami stood in front of the exhibit room, her gaze fixed on the gleaming trophy as if it were the eternal halo of her life.
I am Ami, 17 years old, living a life paved with glory on a boulevard of triumphs. My mother is Adele. Yes, the Adele, the most renowned musical artist in America. With such an extraordinary legacy, it's only natural that I continue the radiance she has left behind. For nearly 9 years, I have consistently claimed the championship trophy in the school's talent competition, drawing admiration and perhaps a touch of envy from everyone around me. But this time, this trophy will mark the final chapter, the crowning achievement of my nearly decade-long reign of brilliance. Yet just as I stood at the pinnacle of glory, life decided to challenge me. My threat goes by the name Jane. She's poor, rough, and has these eyes that bulge like car headlights. A bizarre combination that makes her unforgettable, even if I were to live another life. The first time I met Jane was in music class, when the teacher, brimming with pride, declared, "Ami is the only one who can perform this song perfectly." I basked in the applause of my classmates, savoring every clap. But then Jane suddenly stood up and said, "I can do it too." Oh, how laughable! Who would believe that? I even let out a dismissive chuckle, full of confidence. And then she started singing. My God, her voice. It was like some 52 hertz supersonic wave that sent my teacher floating into a state of bliss. And my classmates, the same ones who praised me daily, began cheering and clapping like maniacs. It was bitter. I felt betrayed. Not because I hated Jane, but because of that gnawing discomfort when someone else outshines you. And worse, Jane announced she would compete against me in the school's talent competition. The classroom buzzed with whispers. Could Jane steal Ami's final trophy? No, I couldn't let that happen. Without this trophy, my decade of glory would mean nothing.
1 hour later.
One afternoon, I returned to school to grab my phone charger. And that's when I saw Jane. She was standing on the teacher's podium, singing with a voice that lodged itself in my throat, choking me with its power. I hurried into the classroom, snatched up my charger, and prepared to slip away unnoticed. But Jane's gaze locked onto me, freezing me in place. She didn't stop. No, she sang louder, better, as if declaring war. I had never felt so insecure in my life. How could a child born from nothing, from the depths of poverty, possibly outshine someone like me, a girl born into wealth, with every advantage the world could offer? I drove home, my mind tangled in a web of anxiety. Desperation gripped me, pushing me to head straight to my mother's vocal training center. I needed to work harder. I needed to win. But as I stepped into the room, my feet faltered, and I instinctively took a step back. There she was, Jane. She was sobbing, clutching my mother tightly, a folder of documents in her hand. My heart pounded wildly in my chest as panic surged through me. Unable to hold back, I stepped into the room, my movements stiff and uncertain. My mother cheerfully introduced Jane with a tone brimming with pride. You know, she's my new star student. Then she added that she would teach Jane for free because of her difficult circumstances. At that moment, my entire world felt like it was flipping upside down. How absurd! Poor people always complain that life favors the rich. I pulled my mother aside, unable to mask the irritation in my voice. I don't like Jane, Mom. She might steal my championship trophy. But my mother, with a look of profound disappointment, replied coldly, "You're selfish and petty. I'm ashamed to have a child like you." And then she delivered the final blow. "You will have to teach yourself and compete fairly against Jane." Her words stung like a slap across my face. Yes, if I lost now, those 9 trophies I had earned would mean nothing. Clinging to past glory would only destroy who I was in the present. I began to understand, and from that day forward, I diligently practiced singing every afternoon after school. I resolved to win. Not out of spite or jealousy, but through my own strength and talent. One day after school, I met a mute janitor named Taylor. She was a kind-hearted woman who often watched me sing with an enthusiastic gaze, her eyes filled with admiration. She would gesture her silent praise, as if my voice was a masterpiece only she could truly appreciate. Occasionally, I'd greet her warmly and offer her small gifts. After all, she was my only audience, my quiet supporter in this turbulent present.
2 hours later.
Jane performed before me, and I had to admit, she was outstanding. The entire auditorium erupted in applause and cheers, a thunderous celebration of her talent. I too congratulated Jane.
She was, without a doubt, a worthy opponent.
But just before stepping onto the stage, I ran into Taylor. She handed me a glass of orange juice, her silent gesture of encouragement. I drank it eagerly, savoring the sweetness. But almost immediately, my throat began to burn, and my voice was choked off. Panic engulfed me as I spiraled into chaos, screaming in desperation before collapsing into unconsciousness. When I regained consciousness, I learned the shocking truth. Taylor was Jane's mother. Everyone around me murmured that they had conspired to harm me. Right below the stage stood a crowd of reporters. It turned out this was a press conference. The reporters began to harshly criticize Jane, their voices rising in indignation. At that moment, Jane entered the room, holding the trophy high above her head.
"This trophy rightfully belongs to me," she declared confidently.
Then with a sharp glare, she added,
Ami is nothing but a shameless liar.